Patty have been clicker training probably about 11 years now, maybe 12 years. She came in as a 4-year-old with another donkey called Pixie, and they came from a trustee that was here at the time. Saw them at a sale and they weren't in very good condition, so she brought them from the sale and asked HorseWorld if we could take them in. At the time we didn't have very many donkeys here, so we had the space for them. And when they came in, they were very, very nervous. They were very frightened of people. They think they'd been quite roughly handled. You raise your voice or you raise your arm or an object and they kind of flinch and run away. So we think they'd been very roughly handled. We found out later that before they were at the sales, they'd come over from Romania. So they'd had quite a traumatizing journey in the last kind of couple of weeks before they came to us. So when I first met her, only just started getting into understanding what clicker training was and what it was about, and thought she would be a good candidate to kind of work and trial it out with. So started doing it with her, about 11, 12 years ago. They have to be very inquisitive. It's all based around positive reinforcement, but when you want them to do an action for you, you kind of need them to give you something so you can give them the click and the treat, the reward for it, which then instigates what is good, what you want them to do. If they kind of just stand in the middle of the pen and don't do anything, then you will have to do a lot of prompting to get them to do things. Where Patty is very mouthy, so she likes to hold things and touch things and pick things up, so it was really easy for me to do things with her, because I just had to put an object in front of her and she would either shove it or pick it up with her mouth or something like that. So she picked up very quickly with it. We also find that when we do use it with the horses or the donkeys here at HorseWorld, we really can't use it with anything that's food aggressive. Get a lot of horses in that have been starved or neglected, and we find a lot of the time they are quite food aggressive, and if we're walking around in front of them with a bum bag full of food, you can see a very aggressive behaviour from them. They're guarding that food. They don't know that the meal they've just had or the food you've got is not the last one they're going to have again, which is what happened to them before. So you see it a lot with dogs and things like that as well. So it doesn't work so well with neglected, rescued guys, because they'll get aggressive with it as well. So there is certain types of horses, but in general it will work with most horses. You can use it with dolphins and parrots and sheep if you like. I have had people even ask whether you can use it with children, and I've said, well, I haven't tried it, so if they do, then let me know if it does or not. So right at the beginning we started off with the plastic bag. So when you initially start with the clicker training, you first of all need them to understand what the click is all about and what that means. So you get them to do something very simple, and I chose a target, and the target was a plastic bag. Now the plastic bag is scrolled up in a very small ball. As any horsey people know, plastic bags are the enemy. It doesn't matter whether Asda, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, they are the enemy and they are going to kill the horse. So I would offer it to her very simply in front of her face so that she could see it, and because she's an inquisitive donkey, she'd go straight away and smell it. And as soon as she smelt it, then she got a click and a treat. She didn't even have to touch it at the beginning, she just had to go near it and smell it. She got a click and a treat. For Patty, that took 10 minutes, and she knew then if I turn my head towards that plastic bag, I'm going to get a click and a treat for it. So we start off with the bag. That's a small target, and then as you've done that a few times, you'll only do 20-minute sessions at a time. You won't overload the brain. You then make their target bigger or more obvious or more scary in this instance. So the bag, I open it out and I make it very big. So I then get her just to touch it so that it's flapping in the wind. She just wasn't bothered by that. By the time she realised that it was something good, it wasn't anything scary anymore. So we moved on very quickly to then getting her to allow me to put it all over her body. While she was having it all over her body, she wasn't allowed to move. So when I was doing the training initially, when I put the bag on her body, if she moved, she didn't get a click and a treat. But when she stood still, she got a click and a treat for it. Again, she very quickly picked up, if I stand still when the bag goes over me, I get a click and a treat. If I move, I'm not going to get anything for it. So clicker training is all based around positive reinforcement. So she doesn't get shouted at or screamed at or hit or told off. She just doesn't get a click and a treat, and I ignore her if she doesn't do the desired behaviour for what I'm asking her to do. So then once we've done the bag, we move on to different targets. So we move on to the pole next. Now that pole's a little bit trickier because I don't want her just to touch the whole pole. She has to touch the black tape at the end of the pole. So to start off with, we just do the whole pole. Again, you make it easy to start off with, and then you make it harder when they actually know what they're doing. And then you break it down to certain areas of the pole, and I put the tape on the end so that it distinguished it to the rest of the silver pole. If you have a horse or donkey that's frightened of something, so a big object, for instance, a tractor, then you've got them very used to going around and following that pole. You'll see that Patty follows me around, but she's actually following the pole, not myself with the nuts. So she is following the pole. She knows she's got to follow that, and then when she gets the click and a treat, she gets the handful of nuts. So as well as using the pole as a target, you can also use things like an exercise ball. So we're playing with the blue exercise ball. It's very simple. I don't want her to do anything complicated with it. I taught her to shove it with her head or with her nose, because I didn't want her to get used to kicking things with her front leg. So all I did there was just get her to shove the ball round the round pen, and I withhold the click if I wanted to shove it more than one time. So that was a very simple act. You can also teach them to do simple things like giving a kiss, or taking off your fleece, which is what I've got her to do as well. Tied a little bit of string on the zip on the fleece so that she could find it, and then she'll take my fleece off for me if I get too hot. And then after I did all of that, I actually had a colleague at the time then say to me, well, you know, if she'll pick things up, why don't you, she was an artist herself, so she said, why don't you just see if she'll paint? I was like, okay, it's a bit random, but we'll go with it. I knew she would hold the paintbrush because I know that she puts things in her mouth, so I knew that wouldn't be a problem. It was getting her to keep hold of it for longer than a second. So she'd put it in her mouth and then drop it straight away. So we had to build up the time that I withheld the click so that she knew she had to hold it longer than just a second. So if she held it and then dropped it straight away, after a couple of sessions, I wouldn't give her a click because I wanted to move on to the next stage, which was holding it for 5 seconds or so. And then we built up from there to be able to actually put a stroke onto a canvas while I held it for her. So it probably took about 3 or 4 sessions to actually get her to be able to put paint onto canvas, so it didn't really take that long. She's actually very intelligent, and she picked up on things very, very easy to be able to teach her. So we then started doing the painting on canvases, and it was really, really popular for a while. We still do them so that people can pick their own colours, and if you want to have one made, then we'll do your colours that you want to pick, and then you can make a donation and then have one. I have one up in my house that she's done, and everyone in is completely different. You won't get one that is ever the same.
In here with me at the moment are Ben and Barnaby, our 2 boy donkeys. The reason they're in a separate paddock is because Ben loses weight a lot easier than our girl donkeys. Bless them, they can put it on much easier than take it back off. So we just put the boys in just a separate paddock so that Ben can have a little bit more, and if he needs a little bit of extra feeding, he's got more of his time to himself. This is Ben. He's a very sweet little donkey. He's actually on the sponsor list. He's about 15 years old now. He's been here since he was only just weaned. He's a really sweet little donkey, but very, very inquisitive. If you've seen us setting up the camera just now, he was having quite a bit of fun trying to produce the film. He, as I say, has been here since he's about 6 months old. Donkeys can live into their 50s and 60s, but 35 is usually a good age. If you notice, they're slightly different to the horses. They've got a different tail. The tail is used for swishing, as he's showing to you. Stop the flies coming into their area. The ears, the nice long ears, helps with their hearing over a long distance, but also the same as an elephant, it will help to keep them cool. They can make the vessels come a little bit nearer to the skin, and it will release some of the heat out of their bodies. But this is the boys. The boys, like I say, they very often, they also go out and do shows. Sometimes they go when some of the Bath and West things and things like that are on. They'll go out and do those things. They're very good together, though together sometimes they can be like mischievous children and sometimes do naughty things and pick things up in their mouths that they shouldn't and throw them around, which they tried to do to the tripod just now, but hey-ho, they didn't succeed. So that's the boy donkeys. This is Piccolilli, who is actually Patty's daughter. She was born here, and her birthday was actually on the 17th of July. She was born in 2004. Patty actually was a very good mum, and very protective of her. But her best friend is actually Cowslip. So they always have to be together. They're a bit like best friends. So we thought we'd just introduce you to Piccolilli, seeing she is the baby of the herd.